This is Garrett Petrie from the Minnesota Department of Education with Stacy Danov from the Department of Human Services, and we're going to share with you a way to positively introduce a person using one-page descriptions. The material we are sharing with you today comes from the Learning Community for Person-Centered Practices. The Learning Community is an international think tank organization committed to helping people have positive controls over their lives. We'd like to take a moment to think about how we get to know students. How are we first introduced to a child or students? We typically see various paper documents that describe a student's needs. These sources of information typically have required features. They may have more professional and technical terms, which may capture a lot of information important for the youth or student, like eligibility determinations, service minutes, progress toward grade level curricula compared to peers or standards, the age of majority and transition of rights. However, how do we feel about this as an introduction to a youth or a student? Are we excited to meet them? Are we excited to support them after looking through this process? Or is there another way? The one-page description is one of those other ways, a way to positively introduce a student or a youth. And it was first developed by Helen Sanderson. She developed one-page description to provide her daughter's teacher with a brief introduction of her daughter so that the teacher would know what was important to her and how to best support her in the educational setting. Since then, thousands of one-page descriptions have been developed for a variety of reasons. One-page descriptions always have to have at least these three components: a positive introduction of the person, what matters to that person or what is important to that person, and how to best support the person given the purpose of the one-page description. Before developing, you want to ask these questions. Where is the one-page description going to be used and in what context? What do we want someone to learn from reading the one-page description? And what do you want someone to do with the learning? It's also important to know that even if we write something brilliant, but no one reads or uses it, we have wasted our time. For purposes of one-page description, think about these ways they could be used: as a way to introduce someone across different settings like school, home, and community, when moving to a new school or a new home, when meeting new people, at the front page of a student's or a youth's records, as the beginning of a more detailed person-centered description, as the basis for action, going from a one-page profile then to ask what is working and what's not working from different perspectives and making an action on this. Or they could be used throughout the lifespan and always support the positive control for people.
Now we'd like to share with you some examples of one-page descriptions. This is Maxwell, and he's 3 months old. Maxwell's mom, who is a psychologist and also a trainer in person-centered thinking, was getting ready to go back to work from maternity leave. And knowing that no one could care for Maxwell like she could, she created this as a way for others to get to know him. This is Liam. Liam's mom put this together for medical appointments. Liam is someone who is deaf and who is blind and has lots of medical appointments. This was sent to 2 doctors for upcoming appointments. One doctor received it and the other one did not, and it resulted in 2 very different experiences. Liam is someone who needs to explore his environment so he knows where things are. He needs to touch things and have people communicate in his hands. The doctor who received it worked well with Liam, and the one who didn't found Liam to be a challenge, someone who couldn't sit still. 2 appointments with 2 different results. And this is Tyler. Tyler and his family got involved in creating this description. And can you guess what's one thing that's very important to Tyler? You're right, if you've guessed dinosaurs. And this is Jake. Jake's dad had recently moved out of Jake's home, and Jake was really struggling. He needed a lot of support and positives in his life. So this was created so his teacher could better understand who Jake is and how to best support him at school. And next we have Elizabeth Kate. Elizabeth Kate created this one-page description to the front cover of her annual plan. Notice the page numbers on this description. And she created this as she was getting ready to graduate from high school. And at the time, getting a boyfriend was very important to her. And now she's on her 10th iteration of this description, and she's talking about managing her boyfriend. These are just a few examples of one-page descriptions, but on all one-page descriptions, there are 3 sections that must be included. What people like and admire about the person, what's important to the person, or what matters the most, and how to best support that person. Let's look at each one of these sections in a little bit more detail. What do you like and admire about the person? This section of the description would have a proud list of those positive qualities, the strengths, the gifts, and talents of the youth. Or you could think about those cool things about the youth or about your student. You want to be clear and avoid those words like usually or sometimes. We want to stay away from those jargon words that we use in our clinical language, like socialize with peers well. How about likes to hang out with friends? What you would say about other people around that age. Those are the words that we want to use in a one-page description. So you might want to find out from the person, from the student, those things that they're proud of. Or you could ask people in their lives who care about them, what are those things that you really like about them? What are those things that you're so proud of? What makes that person, what makes that child unique? The next section, you want to have enough information about what's important to the youth so that it describes them well, so that you know it's their description and not somebody else's. Those things in their lives that are important to them could include those things that make them happy, content, satisfied, that bring them consistency and comfort and control. Those little things that we determine that make us happy, that make us satisfied. We want to write those things about their hobbies or their interests, places they like to go, things they like to do, things they like to have in their lives, people that they like to be with, their best friends, their buddies, those routines that are so important to us, whether it's a bedtime routine or a birthday routine or a specific cultural or holiday routine, the pace of their day, and different decisions that they're making in their lives. Those things need to be in enough detail so that we know about that person and what most brings them value in their lives. And the third section that must be included in a one-page description is how to best support the person. This is really important to do and describe what is helpful and what's not helpful in those supports. You want to be specific. What does support or help mean? What does it look like for that person? Think about different environments where support's needed and what those supports look like. Supports in a learning environment may be very different for someone than supports in a social environment, or even supports in a classroom versus supports in a setting that is outside of the classroom. Think about those things within their routine that brings them comfort. How do we best support them? How do we help that student? How do we help that youth be their best? There might be other section in one-page description that could be important to a student or a youth. Other sections that could be included could be things about hopes and dreams for the futures. How do you best communicate? Or how do you best understand communication? Maybe their story, things they like, things they don't like, what's important to their family, or those characteristics of people that support them the best. This section's really open to what makes sense for that student, for that youth to add to. But these things can really be used to create a well-rounded description for a youth so that you can understand who they are, what are those great things about them, what are those things that matter the most in their lives, and how do we best support them?
Thank you so much, Stacy, and thank you to all the children and youth who have shared their one-page descriptions over time and are willing to share those with you today. If you have examples out there with people who are willing to share, we love to see them. So if you could reach out to us for that, or if you have any training or other types of questions, you can reach out to MDE at mde.person-centered@state.mn.us or to Department of Human Services, positive supports at state.mn.us. And we also want to leave you with resources and links on the screen from the learning community, and also specific information from Helen Sanderson and Associates on one-page descriptions. And then we also want to direct your attention if you're interested in the Minnesota Governor's Council's It's My Choice and our own web pages as well. We have the Minnesota Department of Education webpage, Positive Supports webpage, and the Department of Human Services Person-Centered Practices webpage. Thanks again so much for your time.